Should be all the audio. Can everyone hear us? Check with the chat real quick. All right, sounds like they hear us. Okay, welcome to MUME Talk. Who knows what number this is at this point? But today with us, we've got a very special guest, Eru, one of the OGs. As a matter of fact, the OG of the game, the very first person to type the line of code with us, which is a very special event. You want to say hi real quick?
Hello. Hi, everybody. I'm very glad to be here.
Thank you very much. And of course, we got Mike and Nick with us as well. I know it's been a minute, but
it's been a minute, but the podcast marches on, dude.
Yeah. Real quick, wanted to give a shout out to player Zyle. He was the one that actually was able to get Eru's contact information to us. So thanks, Zyle, for hooking us up with this one for sure.
Thank you.
But yeah, hope everyone's got a good Christmas or I said holiday season lined up. And without further ado, let's hop into it. So real quick before we get into the questions for Eru here, we're going to go over a few game news updates real quick, and then we'll hop into it. So right off the bat, before we go anywhere, we've got released recently was the MUME questionnaire. If people have not done that yet, highly recommend hop in there. I'll post a link both in the chat and in the video description. If you have ever played MUME and you're watching this and you really want to, give your thoughts on the game, see what you'd like to keep and what you'd like to improve, please put your thoughts into this questionnaire and submit it. Everyone's looking at them. I think intently. So, yeah.
Did you post a link? Did you post a link?
Let me do that real quick.
I've done it, and I thought it was really well done. It's a very comprehensive questionnaire. It didn't take a long time to do, but it asked really good questions. I thought it was excellent.
Yeah, it's essentially the MUME of questionnaires. In terms of, there's a lot of options, a lot of complicated stuff. So it's like playing MUME in questionnaire form, basically.
It was really well done, though. I think it's who all wrote this? It was
It's our boy Finway. Finwee? Is this going to be like some Tolkien pronunciation thing?
Probably Finway. I imagine
Finway. Okay. Yeah. And Freya, who's also been on the pod.
Yes.
So
yeah.
Some of the it's part of the upper echelons of the MUME Talk podcast community.
Well, good job, because I did it and it was really well done. Really well written.
All right, just posted that the news post in the chat. That news post will take you directly to the link for the questionnaire.
But definitely fill it out. I mean, I kind of feel like, the biggest thing I personally have learned through doing the podcast is just like, maybe it's not like learn total knowledge or anything, but like getting close to the MUME community and finding out who's really in the MUME community, and like, the real MUME community is very, very different from the impression you might have had if you just like casually checked Elven runes off and on for a decade or something, right? So we got a lot of people, a lot of passion, and so long as you're not talking like
a lot of passion,
PK, yeah. So long as like so long as you're not involved in a PK rage quit, like people actually, it's a very like sharing, supportive, kind of like mutually helpful, collaborative community. So I hope the questionnaire can really kind of help crystallize and illuminate that, and maybe like help inform management about next steps and where to allocate, or where they can invest for great return for the game and the community and everything.
And this is the first questionnaire in about 2 decades, of just about 20 years, I'd say. So yeah, this is really big. They put in a lot of time into coming up with what questions would be pertinent to today's player base, and just trying to figure out like what what sort of client setup do you play with. It really helps for people to know like these are the areas that we should be investing time into expanding or into improving. So definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you haven't filled that out, please go fill that out. It would mean a lot to management to be able to see people's feedback on that. But we also have some game news that's happened since the last time we streamed, which was, like a month and a half ago? Something like that? Not too long. But real quick, for a news post, we had an update in November. So I I thought this actually happened a while ago. You can't train skills anymore. Basically, that's just automatic. They're obsolete. So
I approve. It's so wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Huge
Yeah,
quality.
so they actually, Peter or Slaya, they actually made that change, I think 2 or 3 months ago, but they did not actually remove the commands
so now
from
you
the
just
game.
can't even.
Yeah. So you can't even type train
Yeah.
all anymore now.
Gotcha.
It's wonderful. It's automatic. It does it for you. You don't have to remember to type train all before renting. It's like if you have to rent in a hurry, no big deal. It's wonderful.
Yeah, and the rent change, I mean, we all know MUME used to be kind of like this OCD, anal retentive anxiety thing of all these little things you had to manage or maintain unless you couldn't even play next time. But I feel like we're past that era of the game. So, yeah, it's a great one. Shout out Jahara, I believe, coded that.
Yeah, hold on a second. I was just trying to fix the. Apparently, there was a problem with the Discord showing names, which, of course, the moment I messed with it, just completely crapped to bed. So, whatever. We'll deal with that in a minute. And then we got updates to the Master Assassin. He's become more clever. I actually haven't done him since then, so I don't know what that means.
I think there was some. I think when they changed the exits or open exits, or I believe I saw some change to exits meant that his behavior changed in terms of how what's the exit down in his little room.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Like carpet or rug. Or
Yeah,
something.
carpet. Yeah, that broke his sort of evasive. Some part of his movement or navigation logic broke recently. So I think they fixed that.
Someone said that he now bashes doors, but I was like, he's always bashed doors.
Yeah, that's always been a thing.
It's always been a thing.
There we go. Now the Discord should be fixed a little bit. And we've got our first bot in the channel. Love it. Okay, and then we've got enchanters now see visible hints for their enchanted object's power during spellcasting. Another super helpful quality of life change there, so you don't have to constantly spamming stat and everything. That's the worst when you enchant something and then you didn't check the stats beforehand and you're like, wait a minute, did I did I enchant it max?
That's another one of those just fundamental uncertainty, anxiety, OCD things. Which it feels like maybe now that the average MUME player has to be getting a colonoscopy every year, maybe now we're just beyond those fundamental little anxiety type moments.
Well, you used to be able to determine that fairly quickly because you could either wield the weapon, and if it was plus 10 OB on aggressive, then it was max chanted, or you could use the built-in compare command. If you had, say you were chanting arrows, you had an arrow was max chanted, you could compare it against it. But this just makes it a lot easier for people. They don't have to go through those extra steps.
Exactly.
So,
Quality of life. Quality of life. Then we got arrows will now be aimed at evil and wanted free peoples near Lothlorien. This one makes total sense, but I hate it because I like being evil sometimes. It's fun, man. You get a role play, But yeah, and then Isildur Thenoldo's wolfhounds will now follow his summons. Okay, I didn't know that there was ever supposed to be a thing, but I guess
if you attack him, the hounds will come to his aid, maybe.
I guess
Also try that maybe on Dark Side or something.
Again, makes sense. And
My guess is that probably there was a way to split him, to split the mobs away, split the followers, and now they'll come find him.
Yeah. And then finally, we've got Dark Oath now provides more movement regeneration with a lower mana regeneration burden. That just makes BN Thieves more playable, and that's always a good thing, little buffs there. I love seeing these balance changes.
Yeah, I saw on Warlords it looked like Akos, looked like Sindane has been playing his BN Thief. Or should I say the most notorious crossbow user in the game.
Yeah.
Who we almost killed. We almost had him dead in ABR, but his friends bashed him out.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'd be curious if any of the small but vocal BN Thief community would weigh in about how they're feeling about Dark Oath these days.
I honestly haven't seen a lot of BN Thief users, quite frankly. Oh no.
Well, it's good if they're improving things. I don't really I don't play Darkside a lot, but I like it when they improve things especially for something like BN Thief or for Shaman on Orc or whatever, because you have these subclasses and make it very interesting on that side to play, and it's good that they're seeing some love.
Absolutely, absolutely. Any balance change is a good thing. I love seeing them tweak it. And that leads into the last and final update here. Energy Drain has had a small, almost rework in a sense. It says here, Energy Drain has undergone another balance change, making it more potent ability. Now it not only draws more energy from the recently departed to heal your group, but also temporarily provides a boon to your group's overall health. So that's a very welcome change. I did some testing on it before. Energy Drain was, it was just undertuned. It wasn't particularly effective, especially given how situational it was. You know, like you had to be in a very certain circumstance to be able to get it off, and it was always kind of XP oriented. But now it is significantly better. And because of the tweak, that last bit there, they temporarily provides a boon to your group's overall health. It's actually somewhat, it makes sense to have on a PK character. So essentially, from what I can tell, it's an extra 30 hit points to everyone in the group, like max hit points, not just a cure. Each person in the group gets an extra 30 hit points to their max total for, I don't know how long it lasted, but it lasted at least 10 to 15 minutes before I gave up and had to use the spell again. That's a sizable chunk of time. Like if you get that off sometime before a fight and everyone has an extra 30 hit points, that could be a game changer.
That would be a game. Now, so here maybe a noob question, right? I think you can practice that as Puke, right? You practice that in Tharbad, and no? Okay, because I thought for some reason you couldn't. It just affected your alignment.
Yeah, so Nick, you're right. That for 30 years that was the case, but when they reworked it, I guess that was 1 or 2 years ago, when they made it the channeling spell, it's now shaman only.
Yes.
So no, you cannot. Pukes can't prac it, Beans can't prac it.
So only orcs can get it.
Yeah. So it's still,
that makes sense in the context of the game. I mean, I always did wonder why Pukes could get that because it is kind of an evil spell.
I love the fact that they're starting to put some separation between evil casters and puke casters. Great. The cost efficiency when it comes to like how much mana you spend 15 mana to how much you heal now is also significantly better. Again, still a situational spell, but absolutely would recommend getting that spell on a shaman if honestly just in general. I recommend that spell. It's a good spell now. And most importantly, I just want to give a huge shout out to the folks that actually tweaked that. That was a discussion on Discord, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, and already they pushed out a relatively large change to it. Like that's awesome. I cannot stress enough how cool that is to see like these kind of constant tweaks coming out. Highly recommend the spell. But that's pretty much it for the updates. So now that we've kept our guests waiting for 10 minutes, let's hop over into the interview. So, Eru, thank you so much for being here today.
I'm happy to be here with you. And I've seen someone, Relim 001, he's wondering if I understand something about what you are chatting about. And the question is, right, maybe.
Maybe.
It's been a long time. Maybe, yes. Yeah. It's been a long time I haven't been playing on MUME, but... okay, I think I'm very happy anyway to be here because it's a long story, and that game is still something I'm related to and is very important for me.
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of the stuff we were talking about was a lot of the newer spells and stuff, but you were the OG, the first one to write a single line of code for this game. Could you tell us a little bit about kind of what prompted you to be like, you know what, let's start a MUD?
How much time do you give me to talk about that?
You talk as long as you want, man.
As much as you need. Just as much as you need.
Well, Eru created the universe. Eru can decide what time means.
We got all year, baby.
Yes.
Okay, so maybe first when I started playing MUDs, it was on SageNet, this famous MUD who was hosted in the backbone in some Scandinavian countries, and there was a lot of people playing this game at that time in 1991, and my nickname was Big Cat, and I was playing this game, but I was a little bit getting bored because the role play wasn't there. Like people were killing. I think mostly the people were going into the sewer system under the city, waiting for some monsters and killing them, getting XP and waiting, sleeping at the same place, waiting for the monsters to respawn and killing them again. And I was thinking that, with the potential of a mod, you could extend the geography of the game and have it something more consistent. With my first idea was to have a city for the thieves, a city for the magic users, and things like that. And I started my own server, mod server. It was DQ mod standard, and my first task was to remove all the backdoors that you could find into the game, like praying with one name of the authors and getting God or something like that. There was a lot of backdoors in DQMod, in the basic code. And I was working on this code, and I was speaking with friends in Satellite, in the bar, students' bar, where we were drinking beers, and among other things, we were also having a lot of gaming. We had every Tuesday the gaming evening. And I was speaking with them, and I was just talking about my project. And one of them, which is still on MUME, which is called Aule, which is god of the dwarves, told me, but why don't you get this game into the Middle Earth realm? Because it's consistent. You know the realm, because we were all Tolkien's fan, and maybe that way you could build a consistent geography. And I told him, yeah, but the first problem is that you didn't hear what I said when I said that I would like to have a city for the thieves. And he said, that's no problem, you have Tharbad for that. And that's, I think, one of the first. I remember the first days we were building the roads to Tharbad for the thieves, being able to get some more skills, and that was one of the first aim of the project. And I was speaking with Aule, and I told him, your idea is good. Middle Earth is complicated. I cannot do this, and because my English is not that good, and at that time it was really much bad because I learned English playing MUME. And I told him, okay, I'm okay with Middle Earth, but then you build the realm, and I take care of the engine of the code. And he said yes, okay, and he started to write the rooms description, the first rooms, and the first geography. And I was working on the code. It was crashing. I think MUME at that time was crashing every hour, at least. Every hour you were disconnected, losing the connection. And I think one of the first player who was playing the game was a player named Stranger. And it's the one who created, you have the ASCII art when you enter the game with that castle.
Oh, okay.
The design. And this is one of the first MUME players. And
never forget, try to roleplay.
Yeah.
Did he write that, I guess? Did he write that?
And I think the roleplay was very important, and that's okay. This poor stranger was losing his equipment and his character every hour, also with the crash, because one of the first bugs we have on MUME was that the first character in the players database was getting removed. And that's why I think I'm not the player number 1, but I am the player number 16 or something like that. Because before I fixed the bug, I had to recreate my character many times. I think this is not Eru on MUME. This is Eru number 10 or 15. I don't know.
That's great.
And so that was the first. He told me we started with this idea of getting into Middle Earth with Aule. And at that time, I dropped the name MUME, multi-user in Middle Earth, because that sounded to me a little bit logic with the intention. And the first, really, the role play was the most important thing for driving the development of the game. And then there was other characters that came into the game. One was Redcap. I don't know if some of you guys have heard of him. He was a crazy player, completely crazy. He was killing other players. He was kind of dangerous, but he was also a genius. and he was, snooping players, and every player that was playing not role play, he was killing him directly with no discussion. It was, it was like, the Catholic church in the middle of the Middle Age.
Nice.
And
He just was inquisitioning everybody.
yeah. But he
So
had a very good idea.
ironically, the modern management is actually pretty chill compared to the old school management.
Yes, okay, that was very, very old school. I think it was, some people were also quitting the game because of him. He was very clever, but he was, at some times I had to remove his. I was demoting him every week to calm him down. And he came to me and he said, you have people killing always the same monster. This is also a problem. And these role-playing games, Role Master. I don't know if you heard of it. It's like D&D, but it's a very ancient role-play game. And he said, in Role Master, you have a rule that says that if you kill a monster the first time, you get that amount of XP. And if you kill it again, you get half of the XPs and things like that. That's the trophy table I coded after he told me that. And I think it was also driven by the role play motto, the importance of the role play. The trophy table was, I think, one of the first role play features we put into MUME. Next feature one day is that I was also speaking with Redcap, and he came to me, and after killing some players, he told me, you have a problem with that magic users. They are after level 13. They are no more grouping with other people, and this is not roleplay. And I was thinking about it and saying, okay, in a usual roleplay game, tabletop roleplay game, when you cast a spell, it takes some time, and you have to concentrate. If you get some wounds at that moment, you lose your concentration and you lose the spell. And I started to implement that in MUME. It was quite difficult because MUME was the base code was written in a way that you make an action and you have the result of the action as a response, as an answer to what you have put into the game.
They didn't really have a concept of like waiting, blocking until something happens. It was instant, either succeeded or failed instantly.
Yeah, and that was it. It is not in the command. So I work on that. I had to modify drastically the code and the engine behind the code, and I put this. No, I don't know if it's still the same, but you have this prompt with this like a running slash, anti-slash, dash, and thing like that. It's like turning around.
We call them twiddlers now because we had to come up because there's about 15, 20 years ago they made a way for you to toggle them on or off, and so Dane had to come up with a name for them, and so he came up with twiddlers. And I think the longest that he had to think, what am I going to call these? And he finally settled on twiddlers, so we call them twiddlers.
I didn't know it has a name, but anyway. So I coded this and I put it into service, into online, and the next day all the magic users was dead. All the magic users, and they were all yelling that they were going to quit the game immediately because this was stupid. And I said, this is roleplay. And they say, no, this is fucking game, and I don't want to play anymore. And I say, you have to group with a warrior. And I think 1 week after it was calmed down, and people were okay with this rule of casting a spell is getting your concentration, and you cannot just play around alone. And still in this spirit of the role play, we were also thinking that maybe the Istari, and I coded that too, that when you are an Istari, like Gandalf, you can gain XP only by helping other players. And I think all the stuff we implemented by that time was to try to get MUME as much as possible role play. And that was before, player killing at that time was forbidden. There wasn't you couldn't play evil or like you have today with wars and things like that. I don't know much about it, by the way.
Except for Red Cap, obviously. So
Yeah, but I think Redcap quit very rapidly the game. He was there for 3 months, and he was so much crazy and getting demoted every day that finally he quit because he was uncontrollable. He was
We gotta get Red Cap
just
on
a
the
wild
podcast.
cannon.
I don't know the real name of the guy. If I could find it again, I don't know if he still exists, or I think probably he never connected back on MUME. He was crazy, but he was really clever, and I think we also owe him a little part of the roleplay spirit of MUME at some point. And then that was before SageNet went down, and when SageNet went down, many other people joined the game because I was speaking of MUME on SageNet to other players, and I was saying to many players, okay, if you come to MUME, I'll make you a god. And so I got some players that way by making gods a little bit around, and because people had hear about MUME when they were on SageNet. When SageNet went down, many people went on MUME, and I think this is also part of the success of MUME, the roleplay, and also maybe because SageNet went down at the right time, or MUME went up at the right time. When SageNet went down, some people had heard about it and came on MUME.
Do you know, like roughly what year was this? Like 93, 94? Do you know roughly when this was?
Yeah, I started playing on SageNet. It was 91. I think by fall of 91, I started to code on my own Diku, and I think I was alone for 3 months, speaking with other people in EPFL, which is the university we were all students, and slowly some people around were getting interested into participating to the development of MUME. And I think this is also a very strong things of MUME, that it was, like for other projects like Linux or thing like that, having a community of people, something very open where people could participate and getting some idea in, and I think each of the developer was finding a place where he could find something, because I was always working of the core of the engine, but like Cry Havoc came later, and for example, he said, I want to be the one who is in charge of the /room commands and everything that let you build the geography. And then he also wrote the code for the weather in MUME and things like that, very specific things. And Aule was in charge of the universe. I think Manwe came a little bit later and was more or less mostly in charge of the Tolkien aspect of being accurate with the Middle Earth. I don't know how to say accuracy, or that it was coherent with the world of Tolkien.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there was a strong also commitment with the roleplay part, and that makes that it was, we don't have to make, there wasn't written rules like you have for an association or thing like that, but it was a common sense or a common way of thinking the game. And this yes.
Can I ask who is most responsible for just the very high quality of the world build? To me, like every single room description is just very well written, and it's crazy to me that 30 years ago, a bunch of college students, creative and brilliant in their own way, but they just said, you know what, let's not only make a game, but let's just have a very, very high standard of the description and just the creative world of the game. That's like, to me, that's like the craziest aspect of MUME. It's just how kind of high quality and sophisticated the atmosphere of the game is. So I'm curious, is that you? Is that Aule? But who was it that sort of like is responsible or created that culture of just a very, very high bar of the quality of the atmosphere, the environment in the game.
I think for the quality of the text, it's definitely not me because of my English. So I worked a little bit on the geography. I think I wrote 10 or maybe 20 rooms in the road. It's the Greenway that is going to Tharbad, that's right? I think
Yep.
from Bree to,
Yep.
to Tharbad.
Yep.
I
Yep.
wrote some part of the Greenway. I think today I wouldn't be able to go there because I don't know where it is anymore. But anyway, I wrote a little bit, but I think for the quality of the text, maybe I think a little bit Manway was for the quality of the atmosphere and the description, I would say that it was Manway. But I think everyone was working on some parts, like I think if we have a game first, I think the maybe the time it lasts, it's lasting 25 years. I think this is also part of the quality because people are living in there, different generation of people going into the game and making correction. Maybe little parts after little parts, it's getting better and better. And I think those many contribution makes also a lot of in the quality of the game. But I think Manway is the one who is the most meticulous. I think I'm basically my mindset is more or less to be entrepreneur and to put the fire on things and to start things and that's more or less my mindset. I think Manway has a mindset of being perfect, looking for perfection. And things like that.
Okay. So it's sort of a balance between your entrepreneurial initiative and Manway's meticulous perfection kind of craftsmanship.
Exactly.
So got it.
Because
Okay.
for example, I started the game and I worked on it for 2 years, and after 2 years, I kind of really slowed down my contribution to the game. So I think in 1995 or something like that, I was already out of the game in the sense I wasn't developing coding so much more. But Manway continued, and I think thanks to him, if we have the game today, because he's been saving the game. When we started on LBD Sun 4, I was speaking, that was the first server where MUME was being hosted. lbdsun4.epfl.ch. I don't know if some of you guys remember this address, because to connect to MUME, you had to connect to lbdsun4.epfl.ch. This machine was
it running? Was it running like a Linux or a Solaris?
No, it's a Solaris. Solaris.
Yeah.
Solaris.
Yeah.
It was a Sun microsystem, and like the name LBD Sun 4 was LBD was for database laboratoire de base de données in French, database laboratory. Because maybe just to come back to the beginning, when I started the game, SageNet was running on VAX VMS. Which is a digital equipment machine by the time.
I have a character called Max, so. I do. I have a character called Max.
It's pretty old. I think it doesn't exist anymore. But so I had an account on VAX VMS machine, and I tried to compile MUME on DQ. My first DQ mod, I tried to compile on VAX VMS, wasn't working. So I went to someone who was also in Satellite to drink beers, among other things. And
seems to be the nexus for all these events.
Maybe beer is responsible of the quality of MUME.
Without beer, there would be no MUME.
You need a ton of beer. But anyway, so there was a man here who was the first assistant of the database laboratory, and I told him, I would like to make a game with a server and things like that. I have a DQ, but it's not compiling. And he told me, I make you an account on a machine in the laboratory, and you can do whatever you want on this machine. It's LBD Sun 4, and I told him, okay, but it's written in C. Do you know C? He said, no, it's not a problem. You just start the debugger, xgdb, and you look for the code running, and you will understand what's going on the server. And
God.
you have 30,000 lines of code.
Well, you said the word GDB, and I was like, oh God.
Yeah.
I
I was running my first DQ on GDB and looking at and I couldn't get the small idea of what was going on. And then I asked some other people, and they told me you have to read the book Hannigan and Ritchie. The reference, the C reference book.
Red book.
So I've tried with that, and was I writing my first line of MUME basically. I didn't know what was a pointer. So I had understood that you had to put some stars in front of some variables, but I didn't know why. So I put some stars everywhere in the code.
Oh, no.
So now I understand how it was crashing every hour. Now it's starting to make sense. Yeah.
Of course, and I learned two things with MUME: English and coding in C. So to get back to the quality of the code of the game and things like that, I think it's many people were. I think the role play was driving this. The aim of having a very good, role play oriented game made people committed into the game, and from the beginning when they were connecting to MUME, they were all into the game. It was like a home for many people.
And it sounds like it sounds like from what you were saying, like Thieves were kind of your original, like what you wanted to role play as. Like that was the thing that was kind of the instigator of like, ooh, I want to role play as a thief. That's kind of what drove you.
Hmm.
Like,
me? What drove me to do that?
Thieves were kind of your starting point for role playing.
No, it's not Thieves. Thieves was an example, but it could be Magic
okay,
User.
gotcha.
My idea was to have a city, like a place for every player.
Yeah.
The idea behind this was not to have thieves, but to have to force to make players go around into the geography of the game. That was the aim. It was to say, if you are a thief, you want to improve your skills, you cannot do it Brie. You have to move somewhere else. You have to discover the world.
Yeah.
That was the main idea. The idea was to discover the world, to make people playing together and not staying in one place killing monsters.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
That is powerful, and I'm sad. I hate to. It makes me sad to think. I mean, the MUME the game and MUME the community are so strong, but certainly the modern gameplay, the modern instance of gameplay that we have now, I think probably has fallen a little short of that original, everybody has to group, everybody has to explore type mentality. I don't think the game is. I don't think that the combination of the game and the players together are currently living up to that dream. As much as I love the game, I think we've kind of fallen off of that.
Yeah, role playing is definitely taking a bit of a hit as well.
Yeah. But logging on, because even I started playing like in the mid to late 90s, and there'd be 100 players on. You had no choice. I mean, you had to group to do anything.
Yeah.
And that was the fun of it. And I remember times when I would join a group. I was a total noob. I had no idea. Terrible pracs, terrible equipment. Had no skill. And we'd go off on these crazy adventures and see all these crazy mobs. And I would be like typing the map command and trying to look for the X and then draw on a piece of paper where we were so I could ever get back there. Like it was just like that sheer adventure was just so crazy. And so somehow we lost a little bit of that. But that's awesome that's really that story of like your entrepreneurial ambition and vision and Manway's perfection, kind of Tolkien hypersensitive craftsmanship, and then this maybe an exodus from SedgeNet, and it all kind of came together to create this community and create this culture of just like always improving, always crafting a role-playing adventure environment that lives up to Tolkien. That's a really cool story.
So what? Actually, that brings up an interesting idea. What were some of the things that you and Manway like disagreed on and had to part ways on? Like you mentioned mapping earlier. What were some of the things you guys disagreed on?
Okay, first I would like to say that it's thanks to Manway if I'm here and able to speak about that game, because he's been sustaining the game for the last 20 years when I was doing and if I can say today that I created this game, it's thanks to him. So I like, okay, we have some disagreement, but I want to first say that I have I owe a lot to Manwë for what he did for the game. Manwë is someone who is kind of stubborn, but he's very conservative, and I think MUME is like his family, and he's going to save MUME like if it was his child, and it's very important to him. And I think we all have to be kind of grateful to that, and I am too, because I really thanks Manwë for that. And it was because LBD Sun 4 was doing 99% of the internet traffic at the university at some point in 95. We had some trouble, and Manwë found a solution to make MUME survive to that, and that's great. We had some disagreement because first when I was starting the project, I was gathering people around me, but I was I'm kind of running. I see the light, and I try to get to it as fast as possible. Manwë is more careful and is going at a slower pace. So sometimes I was, during the night I was coding something, and the next day it was removed by Manwë. It was really pissing me off. And, we had some discussion. I don't remember exactly what, but we had some discussion. And there were some arguments about me being the little boss, and other people being democratic and things like that. We had some tough discussion about I decided to do something, but I didn't have the agreement of the others, and I said it's my baby, and others saying no, it's not yours anymore, because we had also invested a lot in it. And I think it's true. At some point, I think by having a community working on that project made the project so important. So you were speaking about the precision, but I think the quality. I think the quality is also because we had many people working together. I think it's a little bit the Swiss spirit, maybe. In Switzerland we are slow. We have many people making decisions, but sometimes people make fun of us because we are slow, but we make the right decision over the time. And I think it's the same a little bit with MUME. Maybe when someone was going too fast, the other were saying you are going too fast. We disagree, and we removed what you have done. And that was, I think, the quality is maybe something that get out of construction and destruction in the middle of it, because you need both of it to have something of high quality. And so disagreement we had. I think the main disagreement we had with Manwë, at some point I decided to make a graphical client, because at this time, by the time in 95 or something like that, you had the LP Mud, which was another engine, and LP Muds, there was a graphical one, and I was convinced that at some point we needed to move onto the graphical client with something more fun, more graphical, and things like that. And some years later, you had this EverQuest game made by Sun Entertainment, which maybe was proving I was right somewhere. But anyway, I was working on that, and I was working on some code that was issuing or revealing all the metadata about the rooms, like the ID of the room and things like that. And Manwë said, no, you cannot do that. And I said, why? If I want to make a graphical client with some mapping, I do need to reveal some of the information about the room, like the ID, to be sure that it's consistent geometrically. And he said no, because players could cheat. And I developed something, and he just he didn't remove it, by the way, but he hid it somehow later. And I think at this point I left my work, because I was developing this XML. There was a /XML command to make the room being displayed with metadata and other information, and he was hiding it, and I think that was a major disagreement. And for what I have seen, because I've seen that many people are using now the mmapper client, someone won the game anyhow later. And I'm very happy with that, because I think I've been, I have a kid who is 15 years old, and I told him about MUME, and he said he's looking at that like, an archaeologist would look at some Nintendo NES game or something like that.
So that's interesting. I mean, it sounds like you have always been very forward-looking and progressive and flexible on evolving the game to keep it current, right? Yeah, and that's interesting because when we talked to Manway, I mean, he sounded open. Like he was like, oh, maybe we could use AI, or maybe we could use graphics. Like he sounded like he was very open to a lot of ideas. But I guess like my impression is that for the past 15 or 20 years, there's been a very conservative, very strict approach with management about evolving the game.
But I think on the other hand, he's conservative, but he kind of conservates the game.
Right? No, totally. Yeah. Like we would not have the game if he were not conservative. Yeah, I think that's a very fair point. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we kind of went for sort of responding to, for example, I think it was around 2005, 2006, we got an XML mode for me, an output, just like what you were describing, with XML tags around things like the room name, room description, the prompt. And that was specifically to help mappers be able to scrape the data and interpret it, because before then we did have mappers. We had mappers far back as 2003, but they were just parsing the text. They were looking at the color codes and kind of trying to make sense of it. But this was a deliberate attempt to help mappers function. And then fast forward, we've had GMCP, and now just in the last year, we actually do now have. We don't have the actual room IDs, but we have essentially like a checksum or a hash of a numerical integer value that is every room gets a unique number. Yes.
Yeah.
So
it's what you need. It's a unique identifier, because you have some rooms that have the same description, same title, and if you cannot differentiate them because you don't have the ID, then you cannot map the rooms.
Yeah. So I think it's moved in the direction that you originally were pushing for it to move. It's been very slow and deliberate, and we kind of tested and figured out, well, would this open it up for people to cheat? Would it not? And I think progress has been slow, but we have made progress on that. I mean, we now have a lot of this stuff that, oh my God, we could totally kind of dream about 20 years ago. Because I mean, me and a few other peoples, we make custom clients for the game, and it's a real big help to us to be able to have that information. And in like Freya and like the work that she's done with like the like the overlay. How would you describe like the overlay of some graphical? Yeah.
A few people have used the AI image generation to take the room descriptions and generate actual like AI imagery of rooms. I mean, it's kind of it's a proof of concept level, but it was pretty cool. But there's certainly a lot of energy and enthusiasm for people who want to maybe take the game forward in terms of the user experience. But I think they're mostly exploratory at this point. But there's certainly a lot of appetite for that.
Sure, I think it's the most important thing. I think it's to have people being convinced that they can push the project a little bit forward. And I think that's, to get back to your question, the quality is only here. It's every. I think it's a phenomenal, gigantic effort that has been put into that game by thousands of people.
Yeah, it's incredible. But I'm going to make maybe a controversial take or controversial opinion. I'd love to hear your reaction to it. So, in the 90s, a lot of people playing the game, like, they only had internet access because they were at university, or they had to go to a computer lab, right? Or Telnet or a text-based interface was actually that was the capability they had available to them. So a text-based game fit in that world very, very well. So then
Of
the end of the
course,
night,
but
yeah,
I
go
would
ahead.
just add that there was not only people from universities, but also people from military. I don't know how it's going. How do you make army in the US? But basically, some of the soldiers had some times and some boring times, and there were some of them who were players on MUME by that time, and we had a lot of .mil address in our game base.
Yeah, that's still
By the
true
way.
today. There's actually a surprising number of military members under the hood playing.
Okay.
Yeah, but
continue.
Yeah, so sorry, just like so out of the 90s, like in the early 2000s, you had World of Warcraft, you had EverQuest, you had the graphical MMORPGs exploding. But what happened with MUME, and this is my theory, is that because the Lord of the Rings movies happened at exactly that time, MUME still had a lot of growth and a lot of new players. So my theory is what happened is that a lot of MUDs died. A lot of people went to other games like World of Warcraft, but MUME and other Tolkien-based MUDs had kind of an artificial growth phase driven by the movies. And so I feel that to some extent, MUME management kind of thought like, oh, look, this game is doing fine. We're doing fine. And so there was like this artificial period where people felt like, hey, we got 100 players. It's 2003, 2004. We're doing fine. But that was not driven because of like the quality of the game or the experience of the game versus its other options like World of Warcraft. That was driven by the movies. And then when the movies faded away, I think, MUME has been like MUME growth essentially ended, the community growth essentially ended in 2005 from a strictly statistical point of view. But I feel like maybe because of the movies, that management sort of like that disconnected management from the reality of possibly evolving the game versus competitive options. I feel like management kind of got this attitude that said, "Hey, we're doing fine, text-based, whatever, we're doing fine. We're just going to sit back and do our same thing and be very, very conservative." And I feel like that led to a period of stagnation. So that is my kind of secret theory about MUME growth and MUME evolution over time. But I'd be curious if you had any thoughts or response or corrections on that.
Quite complicated question. I don't know. It's like I would make a parallel maybe with the book and the movie industry. When the movie industry came, it didn't make books disappearing, and books still exist. We have theaters and movie, and we have books, and both are entertainments. And I think we can see it. I'm because of my son. I'm also playing Fortnite, for example. I'm very bad. I'm dying all the time, but I think it's a different story. I'm not that good, and maybe when you are playing MUME, you're looking for something else. If you have I connect to Fortnite and I'm playing a game. Okay, maybe sometimes I just want to wash my brain. To get some free time. And it's like you are going for a battle royale, and you just stop thinking. You fight a while, and you get. Yeah, it's just entertainment, pure entertainment. When you go into MUME, it's a different way of going into the game. I hope you want to role play. You want to get into a world. It's getting slower. It's not for the next 10 minutes, but maybe it's for the next months. And
Yep.
maybe it's. I think it's not the same approach. It's not the same satisfaction. It's very different, and I think both could coexist. The quality of Fortnite is very good, but the quality of MUME is also very good, and it's different. And I think there is no. I'm not sure that one is going down when the other is going up, and reverse. I think both can evolve. Both are giving players some happiness, but in different ways. And I think when EverQuest came, it was really a step forward in the game industry. MUME was we had this name MMORPG, or massively multi-online role-playing game or something like that. The name wasn't there before, and it was because of EverQuest we called those games like that. And finally, EverQuest disappeared. And MUME continues. Why? I don't know exactly why. Because there is maybe because the behind EverQuest you had the business model. It was there to make money because of Sony Entertainment. And MUME, it's something different. You have a spirit. You have people committed to this community, being part of this community. And I think you cannot. People in Fortnite, there is not the sense of community. It's strong. I think the Fortnite is there is a community because of the championship and things like that. Because there is a lot of money. There is some people like I don't remember the name, Ninja or whatever. Those people who are kind of hero for our kids. But I think in MUME it's different. The community, you have people. When I'm getting into the game and I see back dying, I know for years. I think it's like an old friend I'm meeting into the game, and this is something important too. You will never go into Fortnite and find an old friend like you could into MUME, and I think this is different. That's why I think probably. So I think I'm not really answering your question because I
no, that's great. That's great context. I guess to me there's this fundamental question, which is like, is it better to keep MUME as it is, as like almost like a relic from ancient days that was just an incredibly high quality relic? Like, is it a museum piece, or should we change it? And then if we should change it, what should drive that? And so there's and that's like maybe every single podcast episode we talk about that and it comes up, and we go round and round. But I think we could ask you maybe an example. As the player base we have, which I believe is a couple hundred people at this point, as we all get older, we have less and less time to play. Especially, we have less time to play very long sessions, like the 3, 4, 5, 6 hour sessions. We just, as you get older and you have kids, you can't really do those long sessions anymore. So many people have the idea saying, is there a way we could change the game so you could just log on, play for 30 minutes, have fun, and log off, and not have all the overhead and all the preparation work you have to do to play? Because right now MUME requires a pretty big investment. Some people are saying like, yeah, we should change the game so you can. It's like Fortnite. You can just log on, play a little bit of MUME for 45 minutes, and log off. And other people say that's the worst idea of all time, and it would completely compromise the soul of MUME. So I'd be curious. Do you have any thoughts on that, or either way? Or
Yes, I would say that, okay, first, doing the same as Fortnite is not a good idea because Fortnite does exist and there is billions of dollars invested in doing it well. So I think there is definitely no interest in putting MUME in Fortnite in the same path as Fortnite. We have lost the game already. So if we want to compete with Fortnite, better stay, like you said, a relic of the past. On the other hand, I would say, because of my kind of entrepreneur mindset, I would say, but let's go forward anyway. But I would say we have to reinvent ourselves always. And I would like, for example, to make a link between MUME and Fortnite, why not trying to develop maybe with Unreal Engine something graphical in 3D with the MUME world, for example. That might be interesting, but I don't know if it's the right way. We never know. You have to. When I started MUME, I wouldn't have given $1 on a bet to say that 25 years later I would be chatting on that. It was just a project of a 1 week project that didn't get it got a little bit heavier and people came into the game and it was getting more fun. It was developing and things like that. But at the beginning, it was just an idea of doing something different from SageNet. That's it, and it was more important at the end because of people contributing, because because of the idea was good, maybe. But I don't know. What you are saying is that is your next idea going to be the right one? I don't know. I have no idea. You have to test it. So I think if we want to do something great, we have to keep MUME as it is on one side, and we have to do some maybe MUME next generation on the other side, and let's see what gets. It's like the biology has understood that well. You make new cells and you keep the ones that are surviving.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have the answer. I don't have the answer. I don't know. I have some ideas. My mindset is to follow these ideas and to test it and to take the risk. But maybe it might not be a good idea. I don't know.
Well, because
so I don't have the answer. I don't have the answer to your question. I would say yes. My mindset will be yes. I would like to make MUME next generation if I had the time, which is not the case at the moment. But maybe when I will be old enough, I will get retreat and I will make as a very old people. I will do some MUME next generation for my grandsons or something like that. But I will try if I have the time. I would say that. I would say. No, it's not. But don't run after what people are also doing. I think doing a MUME like Fortnite is not a good idea. Fortnite exists, MUME exists, and there is no way of getting MUME into the Fortnite community.
So just for fun, you said that you play some Fortnite with your son, and I think you mentioned Minecraft earlier too, and everything.
Yeah.
As all Mumers, it seems like they all want to eventually play the game with their child just to have some fun. If you were going to sit down and play MUME with your son, what is something that you would want to implement into the game to make it a more fun experience for him? Like, just assuming that you had time, what would you do?
Okay, first thing I would do is to cheat, to give him
Nice.
a lot of things. And next thing is maybe because it's there is a problem with the English. At that time, I wasn't bothering about that because I was more in the engine than into the world. I've always, the first version of Brie. Just to give you an example, the first version of Brie had the main street going from east to west.
Mm-hmm.
And one day Aule came and said it's completely wrong. The map says in I don't know what in the Atlas of Middle Earth that the main street should go from south to north. And I think it was 6 months after the beginning. And after that, I've never find out my way in Brie anymore. I'm still for me Brie is still the main street going from east to west. And I cannot move into Brie anymore from that time. So what I would maybe do for younger people, maybe for my son particularly, is maybe the language problem. MUME is not multi-language; it's English oriented, and I think for young people it might be quite difficult because my son is speaking French, for example, which my mother tongue and his mother tongue is French. So maybe that, or maybe what I would like to do. I think at some point, what I would do with my son, if I would bring him into MUME. I think the first thing I would do is listen to him, and not doing something for him, but listen what he would like to see in MUME, and taking this as new energy. Having younger people saying that maybe with new ideas, because I think we have getting used to MUME the way we think it should be, but basically I think the way we think MUME is the way it is now, which is not a very progressive way. And I think what I would do is probably getting younger people and listen to them and say, okay, people, you are playing Fortnite. What do you like into MUME? What would you like to see to get it more interesting for you? I think this is what I would do. Listen to younger people.
We just have MUME TikTok. That's what we're gonna do.
Oh my god.
It'll work. Awesome.
Peter, I dare you to make a meme TikTok.
There's already actually. I'm not gonna lie. There is a MUME TikTok already. It doesn't do
Is there
very well,
really?
so yeah, don't worry about it.
I will install TikTok on my phone to watch you do a meme TikTok. That'd be funny.
It's mostly memes.
Yeah. MUME TikTok, it's a strange concept. I don't know if it goes together. TikTok is absurd and very short.
Yeah.
TikTok is not my cup of tea, definitely not. When I see my son looking at TikTok, I say always, you're getting stupid and more stupid.
Yeah, they don't mix very well.
Yeah.
I have ADHD, so TikTok for me would not be a good idea. I don't have TikTok because I already have ADHD. I don't need it to make it worse.
Maybe we need to add some like youth slang into MUME. So like instead of like, you could like add in a whole bunch of terminology like things be bussin' and you got a new item and it's fire and stuff like that. That might be the key.
Arrow, hearing you talk about the early days, and I understand there was no PK, there was no player versus player in the early days. Where did the player who was responsible, or what happened in the community such that the game evolved dramatically towards player versus player? Like who made that happen? Because I'm constantly amazed at just the depth and complexity of the player versus player in MUME. So I'd love to hear your stories or your thoughts about where that came from and who made it happen.
I think I'm not the right person to answer that question. Maybe Manuel could say it better than me, because I think by that time I was already a little bit away from the game. I've heard about that, about all the evil people, new races, and things like that. But I think by that time it was mainly Manuel who was managing the game. So I don't know how to answer this question.
Do you okay? But how do you feel about it philosophically? Like because right now for all of us who play now, you there's always that moment where you get jumped and enemies show up out of nowhere. And it just it drives your adrenaline and your hands are shaking, and that's a big part of the excitement of the addiction that we all have to the game. Do you were you against player versus player in the early days, and you had to be convinced, or did you always want it to happen, or do you have any how do you feel about it just philosophically in terms of the spirit of what you were originally trying to create?
I think mainly I had some discussion with Manuel about that, and my opinion is it sticks to the idea of role play. If player killing, why not? But he has to get into a role play spirit. In the way, if you are playing a troll and killing some human, it sounds kind of logical from the role playing part. So I think my opinion is that, or my from the philosophical point of view, as you say, is that it has to stick to the role play rules, and which means, if you are, it's depending of your race or thing like that. If there is some logic behind it, why not? I'm not against it.
So I had a question about in the early days. Nowadays, if you want to host a MUD server or whatever, you can pay $5 a month to a number of VPS providers. You get a server, you can throw a MUD on there, whatever. But back in the early 90s, that was not the case. It was very difficult to get host. Could you speak a little bit to I think this is probably a very harrowing experience to just have MUME hosted just at all, but hosted consistently. Like what was that experience like? Because you mentioned your friend at the computer lab. What was that experience like finding some space to put the server?
Okay, at that time, I think every MUD that was running was kind of a university exception, and we were also doing this under the hood. It was unofficial. So I think that friend who helped us to have our first server, he was just for him it was just first assistant in the database laboratory, when I did my PhD later, by the way, and worked with him in 2003 with Manway too. Manway went also into the database laboratory and made his PhD over there. I think by that time we were just crazy students and we had no idea of the costs and the thing like that. And I don't know. It was kind of I don't know how do you say in English, contrebande. It like smuggler. Yeah, it was like a smuggler business, and and
You had to be kind of sneaky about like hosting
yeah,
it
exactly.
and not really
Yeah.
letting people know what was going on.
Yeah, exactly. And when the EPFL at the beginning, EPFL was not running, statistics on the internet usage. And when we saw the first time those graphics with the statistics usage of the bandwidth of internet at the university, we were like, getting white, and it was. We saw that we were going to be in trouble, and by the way, there was maybe for 2 years we were playing like cats and mouse, trying
Did
to
they
find a
ever
way.
did they ever kind of catch you and be like, I mean, was there ever a point where the future of the server was in question because they said, well, you're using way too much. What is this using all this bandwidth in the
Yeah,
lab? That shouldn't be happening.
That happens, by the way. It's when Manway saved the game. That happens, and Manway. I think at that time Manway was running quite. Was alone managing the server and the game, and he managed to have to get to raise some funds and to buy a PC he sent to Norway or Finland, or I don't know, whatever.
Oh yes,
And
yes.
and
I think
yeah,
this
he
was,
saved the game really.
2004, I think, something around there. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was.
something like that. Yes.
I
Yeah.
remember the updates. They're like, yes, the new Dell PowerEdge was delivered on a truck. It should be in Norway by this day. They were doing updates, and a whole bunch of people donated to that.
Yeah, it's when the name of Fire .pvv.org came into. We moved from LVDSON4 to Fire.pvv.org. That was the saving operation of Manway to make the MUME game continue. And we were fired out of EPFL at some points because using too much bandwidth.
Oh,
Nice. Speaking of kind of this cat and mouse game, we had a question from chat. Did you guys ever run into problems with the Tolkien estate, or did you ever have to interact with them at all, or was it just kind of they never said anything?
Sorry, I don't get the question.
Oh, did you ever run into problems with the Tolkien estate? Like, did they ever get mad that you were using the Lord of the Rings?
intellectual
No.
property.
No, and I don't know why. Basically, we were suspecting that we were all kind of fearing that one day we could receive a letter from kind of an attorney in the US making some lawsuits against us or like that. We never get into contact with the Tolkien family. And I think basically because we never made a single penny of money with that. It was just always a community for free, and there was no money behind it. And I think I don't know why, but apparently they did respect that, and that's very nice from them. By the way, I would like to thank them, but I never had the opportunity. But some people ask us sometimes, why, how do you arrange with the Tolkien's family, and we never had contact with them.
All right, we'll have the Tolkien estate on next podcast to go over it. So.
I think if you were
maybe.
making millions of dollars off the game, that would be different. But yeah, I think because it's free and it's a volunteer effort, and because it's been around for 30 plus years, I think that's kind of the reason. It's just it's not making money, so it's not a big issue.
Yeah. But I think the Tolkien family, by the way, is protecting a lot the intellectual property. I've heard that for whatever you make for any commercial product you do, they when there is some business, they will get you say in French, put your nose into it, but
Yeah.
we never had contact with them.
We should hire some of the MUME creators for the Rings of Power writing team because they could use the expertise for sure.
Oh, don't get me started.
Yeah. But yeah, all right. So, do we have any questions from the chat actually? Before we got maybe like 10, 15 minutes left. Anyone in chat have any questions they wanted to shoot at Eru before we?
Oh, one more from me.
Yeah.
Eru, when was the last time you played, or when was the last time you logged on and tried MUME? We know that Manway played some during the pandemic lockdown. So curious, when was the last time you gave MUME a shot?
I'm popping it almost every year, once a year, and I popped into the game. I think it was 2 weeks ago. I don't remember exactly why, and I also showed the game to my son, who played exactly 2 minutes to the game. Maybe. But when I told him we could develop some things together, he said, yes, why not? I will learn C. And then he went back to Fortnite. And like tonight, for example, he's playing Fortnite.
Classic.
But I'm popping in sometimes just to meet people. I've been talking around. There is some people I know, like, Dain is always there. And it's a pleasure to meet him. Maybe sometimes Manway, Cry Havoc. Those are old. Cry Havoc is also an old friend. We have been drinking some beers. Okay, maybe just to set the point, I'm not drinking beers all the days and all the years long, but we sharing a beer is always a good value.
Always.
Anyway, and I think it's always a pleasure to pop into the game and to see people. So I don't know if the question is the last time I logged in. I think it was 1 or 2 weeks ago. I've been chatting with what was his name, Jaha or something like that, about the mapper builder, and I was exchanging with him about what improvement we could do into MUME. And I think it was a very interesting discussion. And then I promised myself I would do something, but I don't have the time, finally. But maybe one day, I'm dreaming about improving MUME and getting back into the code. Playing the game, I think I never played really into MUME. Never. I've been going around with a character which is called Big Cat, which is a player character. Now I raised to the Maya level to be sure that he wouldn't be removed. I had another player which was called Champion, sometimes I like to go into the game and doing some crazy things. Not to the point as Redcap was doing, but sometimes just maybe for me something that was really important. Maybe that's more serious, but the role play was important, but it was also important to tell players that it was a game. To remember it's a game. And we had also a strong discussion about that with Manway, and I said because in the 90s there was those discussion about young people playing role games and committing suicide. And we had a strong discussion about that. And my opinion was if we have one player in MUME that commits suicide one day, I would stop the game and shut down the server. And Manway was not okay with that. And that was also, we had a lot of argument with the B in the middle, of course. But anyway, we had a lot of discussion about that. Because for me, it was a kind of a responsibility to say it's a game. So sometimes I was just cheating, getting as a hero or Big Cat sometimes and giving some coins, some gold coins into the game, just to make the game fun and saying it's not that important. I'm cheating, yes, and so what? It's a game. And I was also playing with Champion, doing some crazy things. Okay, I of course, it was easy for me, because I could I could come into the game and doing some crazy things without hard consequences for me. I think for a player that has been playing months to raise a character, and then things are getting crazy, it's not very, it doesn't make you happy. But so I was always trying, and when I'm into the game, even as hero, I'm trying to answer people and to, I go to people, and if someone complains about something, I listen to him. And I think it's important you have humans behind the game. And this is maybe also another story from that time. We had a player on the game, and he was explaining me a problem. And I was saying, this man is stupid or crazy, or he has a part of his brain is not there. And it was very strange, this conversation. And I was getting a little bit angry and kind of, it was boring me. And after a while, I asked him, how old are you? And he told me 12 years. And then suddenly you realize that you have kind of child on the other side of the game. And maybe first it explained that the explanation he gave me was not that structured and it wasn't coherent. But it was also, okay, say behind every character you have a human. You have maybe someone that is not good, not happy, and this is important too. And we should never forget that the human part of the game and the responsibility we have for that, and as a social network, because I think in some way, MUME is a social network. You have people social networking on MUME, talking to other, chatting, exchanging, interacting, and this is social network.
I agree with that. Yeah.
That's powerful, yeah. And it does make me sad a little bit that like the modern game is so skewed towards a very elite level of PK with like a lot of bad bad emotions as a result of that. So it does make me sad a little bit that like that kind of really pure like role play social human element, maybe we've lost a little bit of that in kind of the current PK obsession, but that's a very powerful vision for the game.
Yeah.
I'd say like your example of I'd actually say for me, I started playing the game when I was 13, around 2002. I'm 34 now, and so I grew up in a very small community kind of out in the country, and I'm also blind, so growing up I didn't have, a lot of people didn't really want to associate with like the blind kid, right? And MUME for me was actually something that I could actually get on this game and I could interact with people, some of them my age, some of them a lot older, and we could actually form a community. We could actually have common goals to go out and kill this mob or do whatever on the game, and doing this kind of teamwork stuff. And for me, it was a very positive experience growing up, and I've been playing the game with only a sort of slight interruption, like for since then, since 2002. And for me, it's been a very positive experience. I think all of us would say that I've met so many awesome people through the game. I've lived with some of them. I've gone around the country. Me and these two guys here, we met up in New York City earlier this year and went to a concert, Lord of the Rings concert, and it's been a wonderful experience that I would not have had if the game hadn't existed. So I would say like it's been a very for me and for many others, it's been a very positive thing.
Yeah, it's probably something you don't think about very often, but because of your decision 30 years ago to try to set up a alternative to SesNet, quite a few lives have been changed, quite a bit. And thank you for letting us all waste countless hours on this.
Countless hours.
Yes.
But I think what you said. I think probably then what your story you said just before. I think it's very important, and I think to get back to this question, isn't a text-based game something that is has also its place, or which is important. And I think the answer is yes and no. What is important was when you said you're sorry, meeting people, and it makes me remember that in the 2002 or 2001, I don't remember exactly. I went to California and meet people there. That it was for a conference, and I meet people there. I went on MUME and said, okay, I'm going into San Diego. I would like to meet people, and there were some people on MUME that said, okay, you can come home, and we are going to maybe Las Vegas together, and we made kind of a road trip together. And there was a lot of people at that time. I don't know if it still exists, because now I'm getting older. I have a family. I'm not moving that easy. But I think by the time there was a lot of people moving to other countries and meeting people, MUME players. And I think this is something behind the question of the text base. I think this is the most important part of MUME. It's not if it's text based or not. If it's the strength of the links you have in the community, and whatever you have a 3D representation or something like that. I think it's one of the problem that also has Facebook with now this aim to go into metaverse and things like that. And at the moment we don't see many things, and still I think Facebook is still text based, and I think social networking is mostly text based. So I think MUME being text based is still on some solid ground for that. But it's not because it's text-based. It's because being text-based lets you having a strong social networking development. And I would say that, yeah, if I answer the question, I think what you then just said, I think it's the most important part of MUME, having stories in your life thanks to MUME. And I think this is the biggest... I think this is no, not the biggest, the most important contribution. I consider myself as one of the implementer of MUME and one of the member of this community. Is that if we were able to bring something to people, to their own story, I think this is maybe something great.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Yeah.
I think that's...
Thank you. We should all say thank you. Thank you, man.
Absolutely. Thank you,
Thank
Eru.
you.
I think that's probably the best place we could possibly end that. I think there's not going to be any more questions that are more powerful than that. So
I did have one question.
Oh,
what is the best beer for?
Yeah, what's the MUME creation
a
beer?
Yeah, what
MUME
beer makes you invent
beer?
30-year text-based beer?
I have to ask that question now.
I don't remember what beer we were drinking by that time.
It was a PBR. So.
I think there was one beer what was strong. It was the Quack. I don't know if you know this one. KWAK.
Quack.
Which is Quack. I think it's a quite strong beer.
Nice. So strong beers. That's the way to go.
Thank you so much, Eru. This has been fantastic, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you to all the listeners for tuning in and the questions. Sorry we didn't get to all of them. Questions kind of just flowed from the topic. I know this is always tough doing an interview in a language that it's not your native tongue. So again, thank you, Eru, for taking the time and struggling through that. With that being said, I think we'll be signing off here, but everyone have a great holiday season. Hopefully we'll do another MUME Talk sometime in the near-ish future. And yeah, that's it. Peace out.